Okay, it is my absolute honor to introduce a woman who has been a role model for me since 2007 when I taught in Bronx, New York. My previous teaching position in the United States was in a right-to-work state. Coming to New York was a new experience for me because it was my first time working in a state with union protections and collective bargaining rights. And Randi Weingarten was my president. She was my first example of union leadership. She was strong, she was visible and accessible, and she was committed to ensuring our collective voice mattered and that we could make a difference. Her example propelled me into being active in my education association when I moved to Washington State. Not only has Randi and the American Federation of Educators been tireless advocates for educators and students across our nation, they have also been at the forefront of fighting for the human rights of immigrant children and their families. They have built partnerships, organized and attended demonstrations on behalf of separated families, and spoken out against child detention. So when I happened to be on a panel with Randi this November, I took the opportunity to tell her about this little organization we'd started called Teachers Against Child Detention. And this teach-in we were planning. Since that day, AFT has been a strong advocate and partner in organizing today's event. I am honored they stand with us to demand the release of the more than 11,000 immigrant children being incarcerated and sometimes murdered in detention centers in our nation. It is my pleasure to introduce President of the American Federation of Teachers, Randi Weingarten.
Okay, Mandy is tall and I am short. So, why don't we gather around a little bit more like a community? Come on, let's get together. Because we are a community, and frankly, we are a big tent. And we are people from all over the country, from Chicago, from LA, from Oklahoma, from Oregon, from New York. Come on, let's shout it out. From Washington, from Pennsylvania, from Mexico, from Brazil. Shout out where I haven't talked about. Maryland, Texas, New Hampshire, New Orleans, because Massachusetts, Kansas, North Carolina. We want the press to see that our solidarity is our power and our diversity is our strength, and that we are here today for children. Children who are in detention, children who are in our classrooms. We, as educators, demand and bear witness to the tragedy and the travesty of caging children. And we, as educators, say, never again, no more, no mas. That is why we are here today. This is the United States of America. This country was born out of a revolution of immigrants who fought against a tyrannical power from the other side of the Atlantic. Virtually everyone who came here freely came here as immigrants. Virtually everyone who has come here and fought for rights came from somewhere else. How dare this president, whose family also came from somewhere else, demonize and polarize and cage children?
Shame!
Shame is right. We are at the border of Texas and Mexico, a border that was used in Tornillo to cage children, a border that has been used instead of as a welcoming, like we have in the harbor in New York City of a Statue of Liberty, a border that is being used to stop people from having freedom and opportunity. That is why the teachers of America and the teachers of Mexico are here today to say no more, never again, but to also teach about what asylum really means, to teach about what refugee status really means, to teach about what it means to be a caring, prosperous country, to teach about what it means when we talk about immigration, to debunk the myths that immigration is bad for our economy. Immigration is good for our economy. And to teach about what a real emergency is.
Oh my goodness.
As the kids and teachers from Chicago just said, gun violence, Aurora, Parkland, gun violence on streets, gun violence that mows people down, that guns people down, that's a real emergency. Global climate change, that's a real emergency. Poverty, that's a real emergency.
That's right.
The lack of voice in our democracy, that's a real emergency.
Right.
Starving public schools instead of making them thrive and giving us the mental health services and the class sizes we need, that's a real emergency. But, my friends, just like we do every single day in classrooms, we have to meet people who disagree with us. We have to meet them where they are, and we have to teach them. We are here, as we are in our classrooms each and every day, to mold, to teach, to inspire, to ensure that people are to find that spark or to find that pathway to people's better angels. Normally, we do it with children. But now, and I am so grateful to Mandy and to her colleagues, now we have to use those same skills on adults. Most of the people who disagree with us, most of the people who listen to the president's hateful rhetoric, they're not bad people. They just don't know. They don't understand. They fear others instead of embrace others. We, as the teachers of America and Mexico, we must teach them. We must teach them that diversity is important, that strength of immigration is important, and more important than anything else, that our children are our future. Every single one of them. Get them out of cages, get them into classrooms, and we, the AFT, will stand strongly with everyone in this plaza each and every day. As many times as we need to be in El Paso, we will be in El Paso. As many times as we need to be in McAllen, Texas, we will be in McAllen, Texas. As many times as we need to be in San Diego, we will be there. Because the real emergency is that we do not care for our children the way we must. Thank you very much. Now, with that, the teachers of America that are in the AFT and the teachers from Mexico that are in Sente are going to spend the next 45 minutes or so. One of our teachers, who's a DACA recipient, is going to teach. One of our teachers from Sente, Jorge Antonio Alfredo Rivera, is going to teach. We take as seriously our commitment to our classrooms as our fight back on the streets. And that is what we will be doing in the next 45 minutes. Let me just ask one more question. Are you ready to fight?
Yes.
Are you ready to fight for our children? Are you ready to care about our children?